What's up everybody, and welcome to the channel. In today's video, we're going to take a look at this iconic silver 2022 Ford Mustang EcoBoost equipped with the high performance package. Big shout out and thank you to Randy Marion Ford for providing this Mustang for today's video. Take a look at their website, linked down below. And then at the end of today's video, we're going to unveil the price tag on this EcoBoost and see if I think it's worth it. Underneath the hood of this EcoBoost Mustang, you're going to find a 2.3 liter inline 4-cylinder turbocharged motor pumping out 330 horsepower with 350 pound-feet of torque. It's either paired to the 10-speed automatic or a 6-speed manual transmission and sends all the power to the rear wheels. This particular spec has a 3.55 limited slip rear differential, can achieve 0 to 60 in 5 seconds, quarter mile time is 13.6 seconds, and with a curb weight at 3,600 pounds, you're looking at a top speed at 155 miles per hour. It also runs on a 15.5 gallon fuel tank, so you're looking at 20 miles per gallon in the city with 27 out on the highway. Overall length is 188.5 inches with wheelbase at 107.1. Width is 75.4 and height is 54.3 inches. The $6,000 performance package is also going to get you a set of 19-inch wheels with Brembo brakes up front. You're also going to get a magnetic ride suspension. You get the raised blade deck lid spoiler along with an active quad exhaust system. And then now taking a look at the exterior styling with this EcoBoost Mustang, it certainly has a nice muscle car appearance to it. You can see these LED headlights up front. You can see the dark housing along with that traditional 3-bar right in the center, which is a really cool lighting element. You have sharp lines within the front, your turn signals down below, and then a little bit of trim in the farthest side. The grille on this one is really nice looking, especially with all of the slats and then the gloss black trim around it. You get your pony logo up front with the American flag right in a stripe, then that same color for the lower grille with a massive opening to allow a ton of cooling to the intercooler as well as the radiators. You get a very large black splitter up front to really cut through that air, and I think all the lines come together to make this look like a performance-focused muscle car. The Mustang gets a very large hood up front with really sharp lines cutting towards the bumper and then spanning all the way towards the windshield, and I love in the center you're going to see the heat extraction vents with more sharp body lines. If we take a look at the side now, you can see those 19-inch wheels finished in the metallic gray. They're a split 5-spoke, and you can see the black Brembo brakes with the red color. We got a Pirelli tire on it, then a pretty sharp line around this front fender, the 2.3 liter logo along with performance. Then you can see a really sharp body line in the lower portion of the doors with a matching side skirt that we saw for the front splitter. You get a really sharp body line in the entire door, as well as body colored mirrors, integrated turn signal, and then body colored door handles. All black trim surrounding the windows, then a pretty sharp body line in the upper portion of this roof with a shark fin antenna. If we make our way to the side profile, the coupe is called the Fastback, so it has a really nice fastback design where the entire roofline slopes towards the trunk. And then you get a pretty sharp body line up above the rear wheel to really add some width to it, as well as some nice character. You can see another sharp body line in the rear area, and then at the rear of the Mustang, you can see this plastic piece for this massive diffuser, reverse light in the center with some nice sharp fins, and that quad exhaust system. You have all 4 of your parking sensors in back as well, and then a traditional 3-bar LED taillight. They're 3-dimensional, of course going to give you that sequential turn signal. Then I love all the gloss black connecting them. You get that Mustang badge as well with your rear view camera, then a nice look at the spoiler. Overall, I think all the Mustang shapes come together to make it look fantastic. So there's a good look at the exterior with the 2022, the outgoing Ford Mustang with that performance package. Pretty good looking car, of course. It has some really nice body lines. We have Ford's key fob. You get the pony logo on one side, your lock and unlock, trunk release, and remote start. It does have a pretty decent sounding exhaust system. If I remote start it, not too bad. And then just pressing it once, we can shut that off. Keeping the key fob in my pocket. This is a premium coupe, so we have some nice goodies. I can just grab the door handle, it automatically unlocks, and we can check out this interior. This EcoBoost Premium is going to feature the ebony black leather interior with silver accents along with some white stitching. If we take a look at the door panel now, finished off all in black, you can see the smooth as well as perforated leather and contrast stitching. We get a nice armrest with some padding as well as your grab handle, window controls and mirror controls, your release handles up top, 3 different settings for memory seating as well as lock and unlock, and then your 2 speakers, a little bit of storage down below, and the Mustang name written out on the door sill. There's some power controls on the left side of the seat, along with manual recline, and then smooth leather with more stitching and a nice set of bolsters. Really nice the way everything is laid out, and I love the design in the center with the perforated leather. It makes its way up the backrest with more stitching along the headrest. And then we get a black leather steering wheel with some silver trim and a logo right in the center. And then now inside the EcoBoost, keeping my foot on the brake, we can go ahead and fire it up. Taking a look at the gauge cluster now, we get a full digital screen with your tach on the far left with speedometer on the right. Then you can see some trip information in the center. I can scroll through that using these arrows. You can see your trip to, along with your fuel economy information and tire pressure, and then tapping the Pony logo on the steering wheel, it comes up with even more information. You have My Mode, where you can adjust a few aspects. The exhaust mode, which you already heard, you're able to adjust or just keep it synced into the drive modes themselves. You have all of your track apps as well, line lock, brake performance and acceleration timer, then your gauges you're able to configure. If I go ahead and adjust the different drive modes with the toggle switch, if I go into the sport mode, you can see how it gets a really cool display here with the massive tachometer. Then continuing up into the track mode, we get a huge tach all across the screen, which is a very nice feature to see. You can also go into your drag strip mode, a wet mode, and then back into the normal mode. Taking a look at the steering wheel now, you can see some volume and audio controls all on the left side with cruise control, then a few more Bluetooth and audio controls on the right. We get a set of steering wheel mounted paddle shifters, along with the turn signal stalk on the far left, then windshield wipers on the right side. And then to the left of the steering wheel, we have all of your headlight controls, trunk button is down below, along with a little bit of storage, which is a pretty cool feature. Then you can see the traditional double bump design for this dashboard. This is going to be gone for the 2024 model year, so it's nice to see this on the outgoing Mustang. We also get that high performance package number and chassis logo. Then you can see this really cool metal design along the plastic dash. We have some air vents, a boost gauge and oil pressure gauge, and then down below that we have our Sync 3 system. If you're familiar with any Ford, this is pretty easy to use, pretty familiar as well. You have all of your climate control settings that you can adjust. You have dual zone, heated steering wheel, you can easily turn it on and off. We have all of your phone integration. Navigation will come up with a pretty good sized screen, and then different apps within the car, and then a few more settings that you can configure. And then if I go ahead and put the car into reverse, you can see the backup camera popping up with your parking sensors. Has a pretty HD view, pretty good sized graphics. Then going back into park, you have more controls for all the different audio settings, volume on the left, tuning on the right, and then more physical climate controls down below for heated and ventilated seating, all the different controls throughout the center, and when you make any adjustment, it comes up on the screen as well with all the toggles. And then down below that, we have more toggle switches for your steering feel, traction control, and hazards, and then you have a little bit of storage down below with a USB port as well as a 12 volt. You can see the automatic shifter in the top with some aluminum and leather accents. You have a manual park and brake as well, then 2 cup holders on the far right side, and a good sized armrest right in the center. You can see a lot of storage space in here with some USBs as well as a 12 volt, and then a pretty good sized glove box on the far right side. And then one last look at the interior. The S550 Mustang still is a really good looking car on the inside, especially the Premium. It's appointed pretty nicely, and it's very familiar and easy to use. Up above, we have a frameless mirror, along with all of your dome lights, and a garage door button on the sun visor. The EcoBoost Coupe is also a 4-seater vehicle. You can grab the handle on the back of the front seats to gain access into the rear. You can see there are 2 bucket seats with the same leather material along with all the white stitching. So then sitting in the back seat of the Mustang Coupe, it's not the worst back here. The headroom, as you can see, is not really in existence. I'm 5'11", no headroom at all. With the seat though, at my height and everything, it does work. My legs are kind of straddled around the seat. The seat itself is comfortable, there's just no headroom. So if 2 people had to sit back here that are my size, it wouldn't be the worst. However, maybe 30 minutes max until your neck falls off. But at least you have a handle, you can grab this and easily climb your way out. And then moving on to the cargo area, you have a button on the key fob that you can double tap. There's even one on the bumper, and of course that one on the interior. But popping that open, we get a pretty large trunk in the Mustang Coupe. Very usable car, especially for being a two-doored vehicle. And with those seats down, you can see just how much more storage space you're gonna get. And if we go through the door, they fold down nearly flat with a really large opening into the trunk to make this a very practical car. All right, so setting off now in the EcoBoost. As we get out of the parking lot, a few normal things like visibility. You definitely do get a really large windshield. I mean, it's an easy car to see out of. All the mirrors are, of course, gonna do a really good job. And when you look over your right and left shoulder, really no crazy blind spots. It's honestly an easy car to see around. I know the Camaro is a little bit tighter than this, so if you really have a concern with visibility, the Mustang is a great choice just because it's really easy to drive. It feels pretty normal. So we are in the normal drive mode right now, getting up to some speed. The exhaust has a pretty cool sound to it. If I go into the quiet mode, I like how it really does take it away and you don't really hear anything. It's a nice composed setup, and it does give you a nice beefy tone when you want to have a little bit of fun. So in this normal mode, slowly getting up to speed. It's a peppy car, it's got plenty of power. I don't think you're gonna have any issues with getting up to speed. And then if we go into the fun modes, let's go right up to track mode and then put us into the manual mode as well. We now have the paddle shifters to shift the car. So playing with the 10 speed now, there is a lot of gears, so it kind of takes a minute getting used to that. And I'm not in track mode. There we go, track mode. But the suspension tightens up nicely, way better than the standard car. Like, it really does make a big difference having that tight steering and tight suspension. Going quickly into a turn, it actually feels really responsive. We took a normal EcoBoost through the mountains and it was horrible. It just did not handle well at all. I feel like this is gonna be a much more tossable, pinpointy type of car where you can actually have some fun with it and still, of course, you know, get that back seat and trunk space to make it a useful car. As far as acceleration, a lot of gears, but when you give it some gas, it gets up and moves really quickly. There's just a lot of gears to play with in the car, so I don't know, I'm just not the biggest fan of the 10 speed. I think the slower speed is a little jerky, and in between gear changes, you kind of feel it like kicking the back a little bit. So I wouldn't mind the transmission just being a little bit more smooth and more responsive. I don't know, the paddle, there's a little bit of delay and stuff. So I think if you're buying this in an automatic, you're probably not buying it because you want like the performance out of it and all of those aspects to it. I feel like it's just kind of lacking a little bit of the performance with this transmission. With this setup and a manual, it'd probably be a pretty good setup where you really do have a lot of control over it. So normal driving, definitely not a bad car to pilot. It's not the crazy best sports car out there. Of course, similar money, you can get a BMW M240, which is probably gonna handle a lot better. Couple $1,000s more than this, but it would probably be a better sports car. However, this is gonna give you more room. So definitely not a bad car to drive, just lacks just a little bit of that extra handling a smaller car would have. So then turning around to my honest thoughts and perspectives of the Mustang, I think overall it's a fine car. You know, it drives really nice, it's smooth, it's plenty roomy and practical, good efficiency. However, my only gripes are this one, as you'll see in the price point at the end of the video, it certainly is on the pricey side. However, as we reveal the price in just a little bit, there are aspects to this car that I think could be improved for the price point. It's not exactly a cheap car, but I like how it's very well rounded. You know, if you want to play with the car, it gets up to speed. It is a nice peppy car. It really does have some power. The EcoBoost, I think, is a surprising engine. The 10 speed, I'm just not the biggest fan of. There's so many gears, it takes so much going through them. It's just not a performance transmission. In a straight line, yes, it's fast. It's faster than the manual, and it will do the shift very quickly. The response, though, with the paddle, when you compare it to a ZF8 speed, that car drives like a dual clutch. This just does not. So I'm not a fan of the automatic. The manual transmission, though, I think is a pretty good setup. It gives you a lot of the control with the car, and it really can be a normal car and then a very, very fun car, of course, when you put it into the sport modes and track modes and stuff like that. So there's a lot of aspects to a Mustang that are great because it is a very usable vehicle and you get good performance. However, being the size of it, the handling is going to take the biggest hit. You know, an M240 is going to handle better, 4-cylinder Supra is going to handle better, all for similar money. So I think, to me, someone who loves doing mountain road trips and things like that, you know, the Mach 1 is more my style with a manual transmission, just because you get all the handling, you get all that extra fun, and I love the V8, and I think that's really well worth the price. When you're in the EcoBoost, though, I feel like there's a few aspects where it could be just a little better, and I think while this performance package gives it the handling it needs, I feel like it could just do a little bit more to get even better handling and tighten up more like how maybe a Mach 1 would be. So it'd be kind of cool to see that type of performance in this as far as handling. But overall, I think the Mustang really does give you a pretty well-rounded car. The EcoBoost motor really does have a lot to offer. I know some people hate it just because it's not a V8. Personally, I would still buy the V8 over it because it's not much more money, but it does give you some tuning capabilities, the better efficiency, and of course it does save you a little bit. I just think the biggest drawbacks are the 10-speed. It's just not a performance transmission compared to the ZF. And then other than that, you know, you get some nice tech even for being the outgoing car, and it's a car you really can't complain with for just a good all-around vehicle. So with all that out of the way, this Mustang EcoBoost is $46,400. Now, do I think it is worth the price? I think it is a fine car. I think especially with this performance package, it gives you that extra power and it gives you a really good suspension and handling dynamic over a normal EcoBoost without it. So it's a pretty solid car. However, my complaint is it's almost the same price as a BMW M240i, which is going to give you back seats and a trunk and a 6-cylinder B58 motor that is capable of 600 horsepower with some basic mods. So to me, I would buy the BMW for a couple grand more. I feel like this is a pretty expensive 4-cylinder Mustang. If it had a V8 and a Tremec manual maybe, then I would think it'd be a fantastic price point. But being that it's just the 4-cylinder, the 10-speed just isn't that performance focused, and the standard manual transmission isn't nearly as good as a Tremec or Robust, I feel like it's a pretty expensive car, pretty pricey for what you're wanting. Comment below, you EcoBoost fans, would you spend the extra 6 grand on this package? I think if this was 6 grand less and it still had the same package, I think it'd be rock solid at $40,000. But now we're getting close to 50 out the door. I think it's just a little bit expensive. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, stay tuned for more content, and then big shout out and thank you once again to Randy Marion Ford for providing this Mustang for today's video. They have a huge selection of new cars and are getting ready for the new year. See you guys in the next video.